Alrighty, yo. So patch 11.08 is finally upon us. It's been out for about a day. I haven't had the chance to play with it too much, but after getting the opinions of some players, seeing some other sentiments online, and looking over the patch notes myself, I want to put out like my initial first impressions of tier lists. So I think what I'm going to do is I will put out this video at the beginning of the patch, and then at the end, when we can move on to 11.09 or whatever the next patch is going to be, I will go ahead and upload another one of these tier lists and see if my thoughts are holding true. So let's just jump into it. So first agent we have on this is Astra. Astra gets hit with some pretty significant nerfs. Well, I wouldn't say too significant, but basically a lot of her utility, her Gravwell and the her stun, they just got dropped by a second in terms of their duration. Astra was already not getting played all that often. Now I feel like she's gonna be getting played even less so. So I'm gonna go ahead and put her as like a C tier agent. She's not awful. It's not brain dead playing her, but you had to be pretty good with Astra to get value out of her before. And I think the same can be said even more so. Alrighty, moving forward, we have Breach. So Breach saw a decent amount of his utility nerfed. The stun doesn't last as long. The windup is faster, and his flashes are a little bit stronger. But his ult also got the width on it got like shortened. It's not as big as now. So Breach got hit with the nerf bat, but he also did get buffed in some other areas. I do think he's viable. I do think since he's in line with other flashes and his flashes kind of passively got buffed. I know he doesn't have the highest win rate in competitive, but I'm going to go ahead and stick him at B tier. I think the right team will be able to use him properly. I think that 0.1 second reduction in the fault lines windup is actually better than most people think, and it's going to enable duelists to get out and get into the mix a little bit faster on those like pre-round or early round executes. So we'll see how it goes, but that's what I think right now. Brimstone. So Brimstone really didn't get touched. The only thing they got touched was the stims. They got nerfed across the board. I don't think Brimstone's going anywhere in the meta. I think the maps he was already getting played on, like Bind, I think he's going to continue to get played. Other than that, he didn't really get changed much. I'm going to go ahead and stick Brimstone at C tier just because he is limited to some maps that are just like, those are Brimstone maps. You only play him on those maps, but he doesn't have wiggle room to be viable on other maps. Maybe we will see him get played a little bit on Pearl. I could see that happening a little bit, but not like 100%. I'll put him like at the top of C tier, maybe low B tier. All right, so now we got Chamber. Chamber was the only one that actually really didn't get touched across the Sentinels for these recent changes. That being said, I do think Chamber is still like very much a feast or famine agent. You have to either be like fragging out of your mind to really get some value out of him, and if you're just having a bad game, your Chamber's gonna have lower impact. Now, taking that out of the equation, just purely looking at the utility, his TP is still stronger than Veto's. His tripwire really didn't get touched. It's global now. If you haven't seen that buff that happened a while back, if anything, that makes his trip a little bit stronger. I would say that he's going to be a B tier agent just because he's not viable on like every map. Well, he is viable on every map, but he's not the ideal pick on every map. He is going to be a little bit of a hindrance on maps like Haven or like 3-site maps where like, you would like to have trips in multiple spots, but you can only have it at one. Haven, Lotus, I think he's like not the best pick. He is still playable for sure, but like not the best agent you could be playing. All right, now we got Clove. So Clove is always and has been a ranked agent. I don't think she's like that great in terms of like her actual abilities as a controller. Her smokes are the shortest on the roster. She has a decay, which like a pretty short range. Like it's kind of hard to like get really distance on it. And she has a self heal. Looking in comparison to her to the other agents, she's very selfish. She's a very selfish controller, and that's why you see her a lot in ranked, and then that's why she gets insta-locked a lot in ranked. So for that reason, I'm going to put her in C tier, but in like the bottom of C tier. She's still great as like a ranked agent. She's not going anywhere in ranked. You're probably still going to see her in the majority of your ranked games. But in terms of like the competitive pool, I don't think she'll get played much. I don't think she hasn't been getting played much, if at all, right now in competitive. So I don't see that changing really. All right, now we have Cypher. Cypher, my boy, got slapped with the Nerf bat once again. Um, so it's a mixed bag with Cypher. The biggest change and most egregious change is the tripwires. So I haven't seen the tripwire change myself, but the losing the highlights is going to be like, it's going to limit his kill potential. Like, yes, having the tripwires to gather information, I think he's still good at gathering information. I think the camera, even with the camera nerf with the stealth ability, if you getting it close to it and it appears anyway, um I don't think that's that crazy because people are still going to kill it, and if they kill it, you're still going to get the information. So Cypher's still doing his job of an info gathering sentinel. So for that, I still think he's a decent choice. He was an A tier before the Cypher Wire trip nerfs. Now I think he's like B tier, maybe like slightly below Chamber. Depends on the map. I think he's in the same situation as Chamber. Maps like Lotus, like Haven, like 3-site maps, whenever they bring Fracture or Breeze back, like I could see him being, maybe not Breeze, but Fracture. I could definitely see him being an option. So I'm going to stick him at B tier for right now. Deadlock. So Deadlock is one that is always, I've never been crazy about Deadlock. Like, I never thought she was that great in terms of her tripwires. I think the sonar sensors are a little underpowered. I don't feel like people get hit by them very often in like competitive play. They're very like niche. That being said, GravNet is still good. Her ultimate is still pretty handy and pretty annoying to play against. Her wall did get a nerf though. They reduced the health on it, but did reduce the cost on it. So I think Deadlock is still like a decent agent. She's not by like a world beater, but you can play her on most maps. She does lose that like flank watch ability. She's not that great when it comes to like that flank watch aspect of an of a sentinel. So I'm gonna put her in B tier, but I'm gonna put her in the bottom of B tier. We got Fade. All right, Fade and Sova. I think they can be kind of like, well. Let me not bite the freaking Thinking Man Valorant's flow too much, because I did watch one of his videos not that long ago about this. So Fade, I don't think Fade's going anywhere in the meta. Her Prowler's got a slight nerf in terms of the range you can see when you get hit by the Prowler, and her Fade Eye, the Haunt, got nerfed in terms of its HP and how long it lasts. That being said, I don't think it's going to affect her place in the meta. I think you're still going to need her for info gathering. Same thing with Sova. She still will get played. She's still going to be probably like one of your go-to initiators. And for that, I'm going to put her in A tier. Gecko, I really don't feel like there's a lot to be said about Gecko. Gecko isn't getting played very often. I don't think he's that great of an agent. Wingman got nerfed to his health. Thrash also got nerfed to their health. So I never liked Gecko all that much. But I do think like these nerfs didn't do him any favors. I'm actually going to go ahead and put him in D tier. I don't think he's like great. I don't think he's very viable right now. The tennis ball needs some love right now. Harbor. Okay, so I have a unique take on Harbor. I do think Harbor is viable on certain maps. He's pretty decent at like Abyss or like Icebox, even though I don't think Icebox is in the pool right now. So Harbor is kind of like, he's not the go-to pick on a lot of these maps, but he is viable. He does fit a certain playstyle. That being said, he is being changed. They are going to roll out some new Harbor changes in the next 2 patches, I think they said. So I'm going to go ahead and put Harbor at the top of D tier. You can play him on certain maps, but you have to play him in a very specific way. So it's kind of like not ideal. He's not great on most maps. He's not the go-to on any map. So for that reason, he's going in D tier. We got ISO. So ISO is an okay agent. I think he's just another like ranked agent or like a competitive like Smurf agent. If you're a lot better than a team, you're going to run ISO. But I don't think ISO has like any utility that is like earth-shattering. He did get his nerf reduced a little bit. The width on that also went down. I think the overall range on it went down a little bit as well. So he is not like a world beater duelist. I think the entry duelists were definitely in like an entry duelist space taking duelist meta. And ISO is like okay for like pub stomping and like crapping on like teams that are worse than you, but he's not like a go-to pick. I'm gonna put him at C tier. All right, so now we've got Jet. So Jet really didn't get touched at all. She did get nerfed a little bit in the way that like of Veto's addition to the roster. If anyone's gonna get really slapped by that agent, it's gonna be Jet because of her smoking the site and dashing the site. Her smokes are gonna be vaporized like a good portion of the time if she's setting the site that Veto's on. Um, so I think she is still going to be played a lot. I do think she just has like a really hard counter in the meta. Jet opping is still totally viable. She's still going to be good at taking space. That being said, Killjoy is going to give her problems as well with the new buffs to the turret, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'm going to put Jet at B tier. I don't think I'm going to probably put her in like the middle of B tier. I don't think she's going to be, she's not a go-to duelist anymore in terms of taking space. There are other agents that do it better than her now. I do think she's a great matchup with Breach still. So she still will have her place in the meta. You still will see her get played, just not as often. All right, so now we've got KO. So I like the KO changes that they made. KO like really didn't get touched all that much. They did buff his his right click flash. People have been telling me though that like it's still very dodgeable, but when you get hit by it, you're really gonna get blinded by that thing. Which is great. It makes KO a little bit more of like that self-sufficiency he had before in terms of like being like a hybrid duelist almost. He can go in and fight on his own. I think we're gonna be getting into a meta of like very like suppress heavy comps, with Veto being added. I could definitely see a world, especially with like, actually, I should just really talk about the overall nerfs across the board with like utility becoming less prevalent in the game and initiators taking a big hit, some of the controllers taking big hits. I do think suppress utility agents are going to be way more valuable. So for that, I think KO is going to be very strong. I would even venture to put him A tier. I think I'm going to put him A tier. He's not playable on every map. Well, I think he is playable on every map except for maybe like Lotus. He's still like, you can play him. He's not the best, but I don't know. I think that suppress utility is going to assign some major value in this act and then this like new phase of Valorant. I do think people are going to have to stop using his utility so much for info gathering as much as like a suppress. I think that will provide a lot of value. I think it'll like really mess up some executes if you can time it well. And the fact that his right click flash got buffed again, so he can start fighting for himself again. He's one of the few initiators in the game that can do that again. So for that, I'm going to put him in A tier. Killjoy. So Killjoy got some buffs. She got some nerfs. It's a mixed bag, but I think overall she's going to be all right. I'm going to put her in A tier right now, and I'll tell you why. So I do think the turret stunning the movement agents is going to be big. Raze gets hit by it. Jet, Waylay, all the like major like movement agents and space taking agents are going to really have a hard time dealing with that turret because it's going to slow a lot more and make them a lot easier to deal with. The only thing you do have to be worried about is if you're walking out of the range of the utility, you can get timinged pretty hard because it does take a while for the utility to come back up. Her utility, her turrets, her alarm bot and whatnot, they are going to like take time to respawn off cooldowns. But that being said, I don't feel like her utility, like her turret or mainly her turret, get much value in the mid round after it's been killed once. Like you just kind of throw it to throw it, but I don't think it's like anything crazy. I think she would be a lot stronger had they not nerfed the respawn rate on her turret, because that's slow. I think is going to be a major pain in the ass for a lot of players. But even then, with the changes she has, I think Killjoy's in a good spot. I think she's going to be your go-to sentinel on maps like Haven. I think she's going to be a go-to on, well, we'll see. I'm not sure where she's going to be, but she's definitely going to be getting played a lot more. That for sure. I do think you see in the maps where it's a matchup between Cypher or Killjoy, if you pick one or the other, I do think Killjoy is going to come out on top a lot more often. Moving on, we got Neon. So Neon got her battery reduced in the sense that like she can sprint longer now, but the recharge time on it is going to be longer as well. That being said, this agent is, oh, and also her stuns got nerfed by a second. I don't think the stun nerfs are really that earth-shattering. I don't think they're going to like really mess her up too much. This agent is like a major pain in the ass. I am a big believer that Neon shouldn't be in the game because it's a tack shooter. You shouldn't have an agent that's like running around and sliding and can basically like do like spins, and it's just dumb watching this agent get played. But I can't lie, she's very strong. I don't think these changes did much to her in terms of like her pick rate, or her win rate. It's just going to be an adjustment for Neon players, but I think you guys are still eating good. I'm going to put Neon in A tier. All right, now we got Omen. Omen. So Omen got his smokes reduced by 10 seconds in this fact that like the respawn on them. So you're not going to have as many Omen smokes on the field, but you probably still are going to be able to get like the 3 to 4 Omen smokes per round. So he's still going to be like your go-to agent in terms of controller for a lot of these maps. I mean, his paranoia got buffed and nerfed in the fact that the paranoia effect, again, that blind is not as like close. You can see a little bit further while blind. The size of paranoia did get reduced, but it moves a lot faster now. So Omen can play off of it a little bit more than himself, and he will be much more of like a viable option for like duelists to like explode off of, in terms of like similar to Breach. So I do think Omen's in a good spot. I'm gonna put him at A tier. He is like your strongest controller, well, traditional smokes controller. Phoenix. So Phoenix didn't really get touched. I don't think Phoenix, Phoenix is going to be in like the same position as ISO. I think, we're just in a meta of like movement duelists. They run the show right now. Initiators. Maybe you could see a world where like double initiator will take a backseat, and you'll see more double duelist, and it'll be more so of like that secondary duelist taking an initiator role. Then I could see Phoenix getting played more. Actually, I could pump him up to the top of C tier. We'll see what teams in the competitive ecosystem do. It's just a matter of like, is double initiator going away? So we'll see. I do think a double initiator, double duelist will kind of be still prevalent. Maybe you'll see more double duelists. We'll have to really see. I do see the value. I do see how Phoenix could be viable. So yeah, I think I'm going to put him at C tier. All right, so we got Raze. So Raze got a little bit of a nerf in the fact that Killjoy got buffed in her turrets. So Raze can now be slowed when flying through the air. Before she couldn't be slowed when she was flying through the air. Now she can. So it's going to make her rollouts not as impactful. There is some counterplay to it now, but it's by no means like earth shattering. Again, she's got that one hard counter. I think she's going to be in the same boat as Jet. I'm going to put her towards the bottom of B tier because Veto is going to be a pain in the neck for her. It's going to be a struggle for some Raze players when Veto can like counter a lot of your utility with the nades, with the ultimate, or his interceptor, can counter those things. So yeah, I think Raze players are going to have a hard time with Veto, and since Veto's the new agent, he will be played a lot. I do think he's going to be seen a decent amount of the time. So by virtue of that, I think Raze is going to it's going to have a little bit of a harder time. She's definitely still viable. She's still definitely going to get played. She still has a lot of value and on the roster. So yeah, I think Raze is just like at the bottom of B tier. We'll kind of keep an eye on and see how she does. All right, Reyna. Reyna kind of got nerfed in the fact that stims got nerfed across the board. So her Empress isn't as strong. Her Leers also got a slight health reduction, I think from 80 health to 60 health. So yeah, she's a ranked agent. I think she's gonna be more she's gonna be easier to deal with in ranked. She's not gonna be like your go-to ranked agent anymore. Like you'll see her in you probably will see her in every game actually, but there's more room for the other duelists on the roster to kind of get some play time. Her Leers are going to be easier to deal with for lower elo players. So hopefully it'll prompt people to actually shoot them because they're easier to kill. I do think with the stim reduction, Empress being nerfed a little bit is also going to make her a little bit easier to deal with. She's definitely not getting played in competitive still. And she'll be a little bit easier to deal with in ranked. I'm going to put her in C tier. Just because she's like viable in ranked. All right, Sage. So Sage got a bit of a nerf. She got a nerf to her wall. Same thing with Deadlock. The wall has less health, but does cost like 100 credits less. Sage is a mixed bag because she's very niche. She only fits a handful of maps. You do lose the flank watch potential. I do think the wall does get fortified faster now, which is like a cool thing, but ultimately the wall does have less health. I would say she was before the patch in B tier. Now I'm gonna put her at the top of C tier because I do think Deadlock. There we go. I do think Deadlock does what she does, but better. So for that, I'm gonna put her at C tier. So Sky, Sky got a little bit of a nerf in the sense that her prowlers don't blind as far, just in line with all the other blind changes. Um, but that wasn't like the big benefit of prowlers. Like, yes, them blinding people was a cool bonus, but it wasn't really the reason you used it. Um, it was like mainly an info gathering piece of utility. I do think Sky is in a better spot because a lot of the other initiators did take a hit. But I don't think she's not like B tier. I'll put her in like C tier. I'll put her above like Phoenix. She does have some like potential to be viable on some maps like Bind. Um, like she is like a decent flash initiator. They did talk about potentially bringing back the recharge to her flash, so we'll see what's going on with that. But like considering the other initiators got some nerfs, the flash initiator specifically, I do think she's viable. Now that I'm looking at it, I got Breach and B tier. And her flash doesn't always get like the max strength. Her dog, I wish did have some more like you could see further with it. The vision I wish was increased on it. I think I'm okay with her at C tier. Um, I do. I think the only reason I have Breach and B is because we're in like a movement duelist meta, and that he really plays to that. He helps that out a lot. I also could see Sky absolutely getting rolled by Veto utility as well. The blind, the bird, the dog, the prowlers all get countered by his utility, and I do think he's gonna get played a lot. So you might have a hard time as a Sky player in ranked. Competitively, it's remain to be seen. I don't know where Vito's gonna land in the competitive landscape, but we'll talk about him towards the end. Sova, same reasons as Sky. I think Sova is still going to be one of your go-to initiators. Yeah, you're going to have the recon dart less often, but he's still like one of the best info gathering agents in the game. I don't see him really moving from that spot. Fade and Sova are like the best initiators in the game for info gathering. So for that, I think Sova is going to be in a good spot. I don't think he's changing much, and there's really not much else to say. Teho. I have been seeing people make a case that Teho is good in the fact that he doesn't have bad utility, and I agree with that. He doesn't have bad utility. His salvos are good. The stun is great. The stealth drone, while I wish it did last a little bit longer, it's still like pretty good in terms of info gathering. But he's just not as great as gathering info as like Sova or Fade or KO even. But he is good at like setting up some executes. He is a major pain in the butt before. Well, he was a major pain in the butt when he was paired with Breach. He can really help set up a lot of these movement agents to reduce options for defenders. He's a great support cast in terms of like setting other people up to fight. He does have a great kit for that. But he does have a higher skill floor. You have to be very like intentional with your utility with him. So I'm gonna put him in like B tier. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of B tier. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's great. He's definitely not a solo initiator. But he's not bad. He definitely has his place in the meta. He's gonna be okay. All right, now we have Viper. So Viper, I think is one of the only like S tier agents. She is still freaking strong. She really didn't get touched much in terms of like the decay getting lowered. But other than that, like maybe you'll see a slight reduction in like that Viper Sentinel hybrid playstyle. Although I don't think it's going anywhere. While the decay did get nerfed a little bit on like the smokes, I do think she's still gonna get played a lot. Her wall is like really, really valuable on a lot of maps. And given that Harbor is gonna be kind of out of the loop for the next two patches, there isn't really like another wall agent that can kind of like contest her for that. And some of these maps you do need a wall, so you do need these smoke screens. So I think Viper is not going anywhere. I think Viper is still like an excellent agent, is still going to get played on a lot of different maps. There will be like a slight adjustment for a lot of Viper players, but for the most part, you guys are eating good. Like she's not really, she didn't get hit too badly. All right, so now we got Vice for someone that did get hit pretty badly. So Vice got nerfs all across the board. Her wall didn't get touched, but her flash has got big nerfs. You can basically shoot the flash now, anytime before it actually goes off and blinds you, but it's vulnerable 24/7. It no longer alerts Vice to when enemies are getting flashed, so it loses the info gathering piece. Her Razor Vines also got a small health decrease, which is like the end of the world. It's gonna take like one less bullet to kill them, which is like not a big deal, but is still like another thing to take note of. And her, what is it, Razor Garden, I think, her ultimate got nerfed pretty hard. The range on it got smacked. It's not as big and it takes forever to activate now. So given that it's a smaller range and it takes forever to actually, be active, it's easier to run away from it. Um yeah, she's not looking great. I think in ranked you're going to see a lot of people throwing with her. I do think she'll be competitively viable. I think she will get played on some maps, but as the meta progresses and we get further into these patches and like assuming Vice stays the same, I think teams are going to stray away from her. I'm going to put her in C tier cuz she does have her value. Because she can fight for herself. She is like a pseudo initiator and that she can flash her teammates in. You definitely are going to see those like Razor Vine executes, but like she's nowhere near as good as she was. I think she went from an A tier agent down to a C tier, which is like should tell you where she lands, and she may even go lower. All right, so we got Waylay now. Waylay also was another one that got some nerfs. They nerfed her saturation, which is basically her like slowing ability. Like I think it's her Q. Basically it's down a second. But given the fact that Waylay is a movement agent and she can get on top of people very quickly, it's not going to be that big of a change. It is a bit of a slight adjustment, but I do think Waylay is still fine. She's still, again, we're in like a dive agent kind of meta, so she's gonna be good. She is still gonna get played competitively. Her ultimate did get its width reduced a little bit, but it does activate faster. And I think it might last like a second longer as well, so it'll be easier to play off of it. So I do think teams are gonna play her a lot more. I'm gonna put her in A tier. She definitely is taking Jet's role in terms of like that movement up in the air, dashing agent. She's definitely replaced Jet in that capacity. Although Waylay can't really op, there still are other agents in the cast that can op just as well, if not better. So now we got Yoru. Yoru is another S tier agent. He is still viable. He got nerfed a little bit. You can't. He got nerfed and buffed. So while he's in ultimate, you can only teleport. You can no longer spam flashes when you're in his ultimate. But that was more so like a ranked thing. Like I didn't see very many teams at the professional level or competitively like really spam that part of his kit. It was mainly for info gathering. It was mainly for spams, for helping Sova alts, stuff like that. Yoru is still very self-sufficient. He's still a very good agent. His flash even got buffed a little bit. I think it's like a half second longer or a quarter of a second longer. And he can now fake TP a little bit better. As I understand it, his fake TP now, not only does it make a noise as to place where he TP'd, it's gonna make a noise where he's like originating from, whether he actually takes the TP or not, which is I think gonna go ahead and like increase his fake potential. It's gonna make it a lot more believable now and a lot harder to tell if Yoru actually fake TP'd. So I think he got some changes, but he didn't really get nerfed or buffed. I still think he's at a great spot. I think he's a great agent, and definitely still will be played in the competitive scene. The ranked players are going to have to make some adjustments, but he's still an excellent agent. All right, so last one is Veto. Veto is one that I'm definitely going to have to eat my words on a little bit. I made a TikTok a couple of days ago and it said like Veto is mid. I don't think this agent is good at all. This, that, and the third, I would have put him at like bottom of C tier, D tier. With these new changes to like how frequently smokes, scans, flashes are going to be on the field, that changes the narrative incredibly. Like I said, utility that cancels out other utility is going to be majorly valuable. That being said, I do have some issues with his kit. I do think his tripwire, the radius is still pretty short. Like it's still like not ideal. It can watch some flanks, but it does leave a lot of other flanks open. but he is going to be an execute buster. Like, he is going to stop execute single-handedly. If you're not baiting out utility, if you're not killing this thing, if you're hitting the site that he's at, you're gonna have a hard time. You are gonna have to like play around this agent for sure when he's on defense. Um, his TPs are okay. I'm seeing his TPs get played a lot more. I'm seeing way more clips of it. TPs are never bad. I do still think the chamber TPs are better. But his overall, he's definitely not like a worse chamber anymore. Given all the changes across the board, Veto is, I think, I'm gonna put him at A tier. I'm gonna put him optimistically A tier, maybe bottom B tier. I think bottom B tier would be a little bit more appropriate because he still isn't viable on every map. But I do think he's a great agent. I do think now he's got a lot of value. We'll see how teams adapt to it. We'll see where his win rate is in ranked over the next few weeks. We'll see where his win rate is in competitive. I do think it's gonna be Valorant's gonna be interesting moving forward with all these changes, with the way utility works, with the new agent on the field. Yeah, I'm excited to see where things go and where the game's what direction the game is taking. I think the patch is great. I'm gonna be playing it a lot today, so I'll have more concrete thoughts for myself here. And definitely we'll be doing another one of these videos at the end when we get to the next patch, and we can kind of do like a status update of like, okay, where's everyone at? Where are my thoughts at? But yeah, those are my thoughts on the agents and where they stand in the meta right now. Tell me what you guys think down below in the comments. Yeah, and make sure to check out all my social medias. I've got my Twitch, TikTok. Obviously subscribe here on YouTube if you want to follow all the content. Subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can see when I go live, and when I'm posting new content. I really appreciate all the support we've been getting. Channel has been growing more and more every day, and I'm very thankful to have the support from you guys. And there's a lot of really cool stuff that I want to do later down the line, but we got to take some baby steps. We're going to get there, but I got some really cool stuff coming down the pipe that I think a lot of you guys will like, especially for my players that are looking to try to get into the collegiate realm of things. Anyway, guys, appreciate you hanging out with me. Hope you learned something today. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.